Welcome to B-Vibe, where we discuss our life experiences from the ups to the downs to everything in between. Happy Friday, everyone. I'm actually recording live today from London, rainy London to be exact. So, yeah, I went out to eat some English breakfast at a restaurant that my friend recommended. I should have gotten the French toast. I think the picture for the French toast looks much better. English breakfast is just a little bit too heavy for me, I think. After I ate the English breakfast, I just felt like I want to go to sleep afterward and felt like I just need to work out or do something to burn off all the calories I consume. So it's been what 4 weeks, 3, 4 weeks now since I last recorded, and yeah, I just been busy traveling and also working at the same time, so it's a bit tiring for me to actually record. And the fact that most of the time I live in hostel makes it really hard to record because it will be very noisy in the background and things like that. So I think finally I flew back to London a few days ago and finally I had time today since it was rainy today anyway to kind of sit down and reflect a little bit on the trip that I went on for the past month or so. And also I'm hoping to do some more research, hoping to go out again to travel for a bit. Uh, I'm hoping the beginning of August, but we'll see. We'll see what makes out of it later on. But to kind of like start from the beginning, I think I flew from US to London. I wanna say, yeah, I believe it was on the end of in the end of the May, and I believe it was like during Memorial Day or something where I flew in. And a week after, went with like five other friends to Iceland. So some from States, some from London, some from Taiwan. So it's I guess you can say most of the trip that I've been in is like pretty universal, where maybe not everyone knows everyone, but I guess I know everyone. I hope that's not too confusing. But the trip turned out to be great, and the funny thing is, I I had like a two bookings of flight like from LA to London and then the round trip from London to Iceland. And I somehow booked the wrong date, which rarely happened, but it happened. Basically, departure from London to Iceland, and I was there like a day earlier than everyone. And the funny thing is that the day that I went there, like a day earlier than everyone, it was just very rainy, very windy. I I actually braved myself to went out and take a walk around kind of close pathway close to the ocean near Keflavik, which is where the airport is, and it was insane. I regret actually going out there, but it was also nice in a way that it appreciate I appreciate became more appreciative of the next 9 days that I spent with friends in like a really nice sunny weather at all, pretty much at all time, the 24-hour sun. And yeah, so I think everyone flew into Keflavik the next day. We picked up a two rental car and just started our trip in like a what I guess people call a golden ring circle or golden ring route, whichever they call it. And so we started the day. First day, everyone flew in, right? Everyone flew from a mostly international location, so everyone would be pretty jet lagged and tired on the first day. So I think we spent the first day at Reykjavik, which is like the capital in Iceland. And so right, it's pretty I would say pretty relaxed, right? Getting a really nice bread and coffee, especially bread. I think there's a place called Broad and Co, which apparently we went back there twice just because my everyone in the group rave about that place. And especially if they just bake it out of the oven, oh my god, I think it's pretty good. And so yeah, pretty chill walking around the main city, going through many shops, and then there's also like the big church, like really tall church in there as well. And then yeah, mostly first day is pretty chill. Just walk around. There's also a museum at Portland Museum and other things. We did end up going to the Portland Museum, but yeah, I heard that one is also one of the museums that people go to. And then we also went to the Harpa Concert Hall just to walk around. I think they have some events, so we couldn't go fully in. And yeah, I think we had like a typical Icelandic soup, which is a must get. Also, I think I'm in the process of like creating sort of the guide for each country that I've been to with kind of like the Google map. Don't quote me on this though. I'm planning to work on it and planning to release them as well as like a YouTube video as I edit them. So for those who are interested in traveling on and yeah, usually when I travel with friends, I pretty open about like doing anything. But if I travel solo, usually I'm doing more of a budget travel. So I think if you're interested in either budget travel or like more kind of like traveling with friends and all out travel, then yeah, you can feel free to check it out. And so we did Reykjavik for the first day. Second day, I think we were heading to the Thingvellir. I hope I didn't mispronounce it, but Thingvellir, heading to Thingvellir National Park, basically the east from Reykjavik. That's where we see there is some what they call continental divide. Basically, is the tectonic plate in between. So you get a really nice view there and really nice exposure to the national park in Iceland. It's pretty big, a lot to walk around. There's also like really old church there. Really nice trails that you can walk in, and there's also a really nice kind of like introductory waterfall. And imagine that's like the first waterfall that you see in Iceland. You thought that was impressive, but as we see more and more waterfall along the Golden Ring Road in Iceland, one is one is better than the other as we go. So if you're a fan of a waterfall, I would say Iceland is probably one of the places to go. And so yeah, we did the national park, and then I think we were trying to head it toward more on the east side. So I think we go to Thingvellir, and then kind of like go slightly east to the Flodder area, and then had like Airbnb stay there before the next day. And then from there, next day, so note that I think we given a 24-hour sunlight, and given we only have like, if you minus a travel day, we have about 7 days of traveling. There are days where we actually do a lot and drive a lot and drove a lot and actually arrive at Airbnb around like 2 3 a.m. And so once you see the itinerary, maybe you can adjust it to your liking. The way I usually do my itinerary is I put a lot of things on my itinerary, and then depending how much you can do, that's how much we would do. Um, so from there, I think the next stop is like going to uh, the there is like a big uh, well, so in the middle of the trip, we were debating whether to do this hike. I think it's called. It starts with an F, like Fillmore's. I forgot what is it anyway, but it's a like 60 miles hike, pretty hard hike that you basically start from like Skogafoss waterfall area, and then you hike all the way to Borsmark, and then from Borsmark you have two options. One is to you hike all the way back to Skogafoss, which would mean that you will have to hike 32 miles, or you hike to Borsmark and then you can buy a ticket to have the 8x8 bus to take you back to around the Skogafoss area. The reason 8x8 is because you have to cross the river, a pretty tall river and things like that. So regular car won't do it. Even 4x4, I think it will be a little bit tough. And one thing to mention about like Iceland is that if you have a regular sedan, you can't drive into the highway that start with an F. So for example, Highway F261 in near Portsmouth, you can't drive there. If police catch you, you'll get fined. But also, I think your car would die. You can't cross the river. Like your car is too low. So did that with friends. I think if you are fit and into hiking and would love to enjoy the view without a lot of tourists, I highly recommend this hike. But make sure you train before you go because it is pretty demanding. But you get to see a lot of things. So couple highlights from 26 different waterfalls to uh, to somewhere where you feel like you walk in Mars. Not to exaggerate, but like it's like a kind of volcano, like lava walk. And then you can also walk uh, on somehow the hike. You basically get to see the glacier on your left and on your right as well. And then the last part is where you see the kind of like the green mossy valley, which it's really hard to describe by word, but pictures will do more justice. I'm also currently looking through the pictures and figuring out which one to post and things like that. But I assure you, it's like very awesome. We barely see anyone during the trail, during the hiking there. Maybe I would say like maybe 3 or 4 people at most that we saw, and it's very nice. I highly recommend doing this hike if you go there. Just make sure you book the 8x8 far ahead as you could, and also watch out for the weather. Make sure you kind of look out for the weather as well. From there, we head to the town called Vik, which is pretty famous, I guess, in Iceland. The reason being there is a black sand beach there, and yeah, so Black Sand Beach is really nice, and you get to see like a really nice view from the top of the city called Vik, looking down at the Black Sand Beach. But if you go down to the beach, it is crazy. What I mean by crazy is like it is super windy, so the black sand actually hitting your face, uh, it is painful, and the wind is so strong. It just feels like you will basically blew away by the wind anytime. But it is amazing, I gotta say, and it's pretty. There's also like a small cave near like on the way to I think it's called Deerhole. Yeah, that's basically you can see like I guess equivalent of UK door. Basically, it's like an ocean. You have this kind of like the arc with like a hole in it that you can see through it. It's also pretty, and I recommend like actually going there to take a look. There's a cave actually like a couple minutes away from it that you can actually like hike up. It's very steep, but you get to see the view of the entire kind of like the ocean and sea and everything. So I recommend like if you go there in the early morning or lunchtime, like pack your lunch and eating up there. It's probably a good sight to see from there rather than just going to the beach where mostly everyone is. Um, from there, we make actually like a long drive uh, to basically the next destination. And I think on the way we did stop at it's a national park called start with a V. I don't remember exactly. Sorry, it's really hard to pronounce the kind of naming there in Iceland, but there's a place where you can see the iceberg floating around uh, basically the water. And you can also go down to the beach where you might yeah, basically you can see some the water actually the iceberg actually floating on the beach. So it is really pretty there. I recommend going there during like sunset time, and I think that's the one where you actually um, get to experience the most. And to kind of dial back a little bit, I'll talk a little bit about this later on. But there, we went to two lagoon. First day we went to Sky Lagoon, which is near Reykjavik, and it's like a human-made lagoon, but the water I guess is natural, and you get to see like the view around the city and things like that. And then we also did the Blue Lagoon the day before we flew out. So I'll talk in more details about the difference between the two and maybe which one is worth your money. So now move on to, yeah, basically we went to this iceberg. I think that one is really pretty. It's called Diamond Beach. So if you go to, there are two sides, right? So if you go to the left side, I guess if you come from the west side, on your left side is the Diamond Beach. Oh, sorry, on the right side will be the Diamond Beach, and that one you can actually go down to the beach, and there's some iceberg floating there. On the left side, you can actually see, I guess the iceberg and the glacier that's like floating on the ocean. And I recommend going there in the sunset. Make sure you wear layers because right, with iceberg and things like that, it gets a little bit cold. So it is really nice to kind of explore without like a lot of effort to see a really good view. Um, from there, we just see a lot of like different waterfalls, namely like Dede Falls, Goda Falls. We also went to uh, there's a waterfall that we went, which in the beginning when I do the research, people mentioned that even the regular sedan you can actually drive a car in, but when we actually like on the road to get there, it turned out that you have to have a 4x4 to get in. Um, we, long story short, we actually drove in anyway with our 2x2, but the drive definitely is not pleasing. It We have to be super careful so that we didn't blow up the tire, and then two, we don't get stuck, right? So we drove pretty slow, but the view in the end when we actually hiked up to the waterfall is majestic. So you have like a layers of the canyon and then the waterfall on the top. It's really pretty, and yeah. And then from there we actually arrived at a town called, I think it's called Akureyri. That town is very big, and I think from what I heard, there's an airport there as well that you can fly into. Sadly, we didn't spend enough time in that town, but that town basically probably similar to Reykjavik, if not maybe bigger, right? You have shopping area and all those things, and I also get to check out the kind of secret um, hot springs. But of course, given that it's natural hot spring, it's not very hot. It's just warm. So I just go and check it out. But you are at the cliff, so you have to be super careful. If you slip, you fall down, you might die. So you have to be super careful there. And then um, the next day, we actually hiked to like a natural hot spring kind of river, Delmore River. I think it's called Rojadalur. Uh, you have to drive your car to a spot to park, but make sure when you leave you have to pay for the parking because there's no one there to actually monitor, but they have camera there to know exactly when the car actually go in. And if the car goes out without paying, then I think you'll get billed or penalized. So be careful for that. So my friends and I, we all hiked in, and I guess I was the only one that were eager to go into the Thermal River, and it was very hot. I actually glad that I actually went into the hot spring. And I think for those who like beers and drinks and things like that, I highly recommend bringing your beers and drinks. I saw a lot of like people who hike there bring those in and actually just chill at the river and yeah, just dip in their body with like a beer on their hand. And then yeah, and then the last day were pretty chill. I think we just did some I guess back to Reykjavik to do some more shopping, souvenirs, and then we went to Blue Lagoon. So, speaking of the lagoon, the two most famous one in Iceland is Sky Lagoon and Blue Lagoon. And the pricing, I believe, Sky Lagoon was like $50, and Blue Lagoon is around $70 ish. So it is Blue Lagoon is slightly more expensive, but I would say if you have money and time, Blue Lagoon is probably the one you should go because one, the water is like crystal blue and it's natural, and also it's like super hot and it's really nice. I think I enjoy Blue Lagoon more than Sky Lagoon. And also they give you one drink for free. So drink can be alcoholic drink or non-alcoholic drink, juice and so on. So and it's really nice. And they also give you the free mask. Um, they basically like you go to a counter, somebody put in like the mask on your hand, and then you can put it in your face, and then let it dry out a little bit, then wash it with the fresh water. Um, yeah, overall, I would say if I were to go again, either with family or with friends, I would definitely take them to Blue Lagoon over Sky Lagoon. Sky Lagoon, I think maybe it would be good during winter, especially if you want to see like a um, Northern Light or something. Then maybe that's a good choice. But I think for me, for the $20 extra, I'll say the clear winner is definitely the Blue Lagoon. So that's pretty much my trip in Iceland. I actually went to a lot of places, but I just kind of like give a summarize of like highlight of places that I went to. So next up from there, I actually flew back to London, rest up for a week. Then I basically flew by myself to Norway, to Oslo, the capital. I arrived there pretty late, slept for the night at a hostel. Then I took the train from Oslo to Bergen. So Oslo to Bergen train is probably one of the most famous train in Europe, and it's also expensive. So I did check the price just to buy a ticket alone from Oslo to Bergen, Bergen back to Oslo. I think roughly about $300. So then, if you're not EU citizens, you can buy this thing called EU Rails, where they have a different package from like 5 train days, 7 train days, 10 train days within a month or 2 months. I actually bought the 10 train days within 2 months for like $450. And I'll explain why I did that because it's really important. So the train from Oslo to Bergen, Bergen to Oslo, already cost me $300 if I were to buy the ticket alone. But it is included in the EU Rail. Um, the only caveat with some of the trains in Europe is that some of the trains that are really famous require seat reservation on top of the ticket that you pay. So without seat reservation, they won't let you in actually. So seat reservation it ranges from €5 to 15 to €25 depending what kind of train it is. And then most of the train don't have seat reservation, so it's free. Besides just paying for the ticket, right? So I decided to buy the EU Rail 10 days pass for within 2 months. And so I used that to take the train from Oslo to Bergen. Um, but instead of staying in Bergen, I actually uh, took the bus from Bergen to Oda. That's where I did the hike to Trolltunga, which is like in English like Troll's Tongue, which I think you probably saw the post that I posted on Instagram. It's like the in the end you will see like a kind of ledge, almost like a tongue shape if you think of it, and you get to see like really nice water and the kind of mountain ranges there. It's really pretty. I did the hike very fast there, about 5.5 hours. Normally it take about 7 hours, and you also need to book uh, basically the transportation to take you in and back from the trail. So yeah, make sure you kind of do that before you actually go hiking there. Otherwise, you might get stuck and have to find someone to take you back home. Um, so I stay in Oda, did in did few hikes. I actually stay at the Trolltunga guest house, like hostel, and it's really nice. The place is like not super crowded, pretty quiet. Maybe I went there because I went there during the weekdays, but it's very clean place, and yeah, I just love it. And I get to see my room's view is like a mountain views, so you can't beat that, right? But of course, I get to share the room with like in a bunk bed or so. Like, I think the room has about I want to say 8 beds, but only like 4 beds or 3 beds were occupied. So I think it was fine. And the room is actually pretty spacious anyway, so I think it was all good. And yeah, I did a couple hikes there. Uh, and then yeah, I really like Oda. Oda, I think like is a hiking heaven for everyone who hasn't been to Norway. I think like that's probably the town I would stop first and do some introduction hike there and doing some hikes just all around there in general. After I did some few hikes there and for a few days, I took the bus back to Bergen from Oslo, and then yeah, even Bergen, I kind of hiked few mountains there, like a few of the highest mountain there, and then as well as just going to the city center and check out things there, and then from there, uh, took the train from Bergen back to Oslo. Uh, Oslo, typical city thing, nothing much to talk about. I'm not really a city person, so it just yeah, mainly just walk around the city. But it was okay. It was nice. Um, yeah, from there I actually took the train next from Oslo to Copenhagen, Denmark. Uh, and I think one thing I would do in the future is actually rent a car in Norway and go to a place called Lofoten, which is like insanely nice for hiking and like just the mountain and stuff like that. I think it's really nice there. But moving on, took the train to Copenhagen. Copenhagen, I think is just okay. Honestly, I kind of walked the entire city almost in one day. Um, Nothing too surprising to me, just typical kind of like big city thing. Not much to do, to be honest, besides just like looking around the city and castle and things like that. So nothing to comment, nothing much to comment about there. Uh, but yeah, living wise, I think is pretty interesting in Copenhagen, in a small city like that, but it's also a capital. And then from there, I think the next trip is to get there is the craziest, but the kind of reward is like the most worth it. Basically, I was planning to go to a city in Germany called Oberstdorf. That's a part of the German Alps there, and I heard it's really pretty when I did the research. So for the train, this is the only the one downside thing about the train, right? Is that sometimes you may have to do a lot of transfer from city to city, and then it takes a long time. I think train from Denmark to Oberstdorf took me about 15 hours, and probably more because the train was late, and then I missed the train because the train was late and things like that. But basically, the route was from Copenhagen to Berlin, Berlin to Munich, Munich to Ingolstadt, and then Ingolstadt to Oberstdorf. That was the supposed trip that I had to take. But the train from Berlin to Munich was so late. It was like 40 minutes behind. I don't know what happened, but it was behind by 40 minutes. So the train from Munich to Ingolstadt already left. So I couldn't even take that train. So I kind of look at the Google map and see what the train that I can connect to. So I went to this town called Kempten. Uh, but then from Kempten to Oberstdorf, which is my final destination, the train, the first train is like early in the morning at 5 a.m. So actually I have to like kind of chill and sleep a little bit at the train station from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m., which is probably not the most pleasant place to kind of just doze off, but you have to do what you gotta do. And so at 5 a.m., took the train to Oberstdorf, and yeah, I arrived in the hostel there, and then kind of like just getting ready to go to hike. Also did like a few hikes there. I may be a little bit biased, but I would say like Obers, maybe take Iceland out of the equation because Iceland itself is like very pretty. It's really hard to compare against Iceland. But if I were to compare places in Norway that I've been and hike versus Oberstdorf, Germany, I think I actually like the Oberstdorf, Germany much better. Um, Much more greener, cleaner, and just yeah, and it's just amazing. I think it's very different. Maybe if I go to Lofoten in Norway. That would change my mind about the ranking here. But I think so far I really like Oberstdorf. Maybe that's something that's a place that I would take my mom there next year in the future to visit. And I suppose I heard that a lot of lung patients actually lives in Oberstdorf because the air in Oberstdorf is really good. And yeah, I mean, I guess like given in the German Alps, yeah, I mean, it's just really nice. And funny thing enough, like last year, I also went to a national park in Germany, bordering Austria, and it was really pretty too. And so I didn't really expect like Germany to be the pretty as far as the nature goes. And so I'm really surprised. Even this year, I was really surprised too. And yeah, so far I have a really good impression of like Oscar, Germany, and kind of do like the nature stuff. And it seems like German school they have this thing. I talked to one of the hostel mates that's from Germany, and he was mentioning about like in Germany, every couple of years, like let's say in fourth grade or seventh grade or ninth grade, kids are mandatory like go on like some kind of like a road trip with the teacher. You pick a teacher that you're gonna take classes with. You go to a road trip, and they basically kind of like go to hiking and all those things. So that's probably why maybe a lot of Germans are like outdoor potentially. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what I heard based on the story that the hostel mate told me. And from there, my next stop is Hungary. So initially, my plan was to go to Italy Dolomites or go to Swiss Alps, but turned out one is super expensive accommodation or it was booked out. So it sucks because like my goal was to like go to Italy Dolomites and then fly back to London to rest. But it's okay. I just doing some research and yeah, I think like there was a train also from Oberstdorf to Budapest. So you had to cross to Austria and then Budapest in Hungary. So I went to Hungary for a few days. Yeah, got really cheap booking there in Airbnb, and then yeah, just walking around Budapest, go to the city called Visegrad, and then also go to a city called Esztergom, which is like a border to Slovenia. So I was able to walk on a bridge, basically like the splits between Hungary and Slovenia, which is quite interesting. Never done that before, but that was my first time kind of crossing the country by the bridge. But yeah, and then from there I kind of flew back to London. So I probably left a lot of details out and not like talking deeply on this, but I'm hoping in the future for Instagram posts, for YouTube videos, I'll be able to explain kind of more in depth of like what I did and how I did it. And there's definitely some struggles in taking trains and planning and things like that because it's really there are actually a lot of unknowns the first time actually using this kind of system and it's really hard and you have to be flexible like the one I mentioned about like I missed a train and but the EU rail the train days actually start from 12 a.m. today till the 12 a.m. the next day. So if your train somehow extended to the 12 a.m. the following day, that will count as a two train days against you. But luckily, because of the train from Berlin to Munich was late, I was able to kind of explain to the conductor that the reason why I took the train from Kempten to Oberstdorf in like 5 a.m., which is like the second train day, was that the train was late, so they only count me as like one train day. And so I actually use the app, so app is very easier to kind of like work with. And yeah, you just have to plan ahead and be flexible to do all of that. So yeah, that's pretty much the hectic kind of traveling that I did for the past 1 month. And definitely there are a lot of struggle in between from living in hostel, uh, going out in the early morning, travel till like 2 a.m., 2 p.m., or 3 p.m., then come back to hostel to work till like 1 a.m. It does get a bit tiring, but I guess like life is short, right? So it's kind of hard to. So that's how I can justify like okay, like I only have limited time here to see certain amount of to go to different amount of like countries and how deep do I want to be in there. And I think I would say this time around, I'm actually not rushing from country to country, but I think I travel more deeply this time around per country. So yeah, and I think like this type of traveling is a little bit different than what I used to do. I used to do like just country hopping, but I felt like if I do that this time, I don't truly know the culture and experience more the local things. So that's kind of like the main theme of this year's travel. Um, yeah, so I think that's pretty much my traveling stories for the past 1 month, and hoping to share more in the social media and whatnot. And looking forward to edit my video as well. I actually took a lot of videos, had a lot of content, just never had time to edit anything, but I'm hoping to do so. So currently I'm just chilling out in London for a couple of weeks, and the goal I'm hoping is to go again in like beginning of August or mid-August again for a few weeks before heading home to US. So yeah, if you like the content, please follow us on Instagram bvipod or email us at bvipod@gmail.com, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. See ya. Bye.